Good everybody, Cryptic here, and today I'm going to be doing a video on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and we are going to be giving you the best tips and tricks to improve for in-game and to be able to get to the higher incursions that you are hoping to. Um, this will be on Season 1. A lot of content has already been dropped for what some call season zero. Um, but yeah, let's get into it. So, before you do anything, whether you're a beginner or you've been playing this for a while, there might be something in this video that could help out anyone. If you already know all of this, then that's awesome. But for anybody who doesn't have this information, some of these tips will help you out tremendously. So, we're going to start out with settings. And settings, whether people realize it or not, can be make a tremendous difference in your gameplay and how well you do. Um, a lot of it is preference based. All of it's preference based, but these tips can, in fact, help you out through your journey. Now, I will say some of these tips can make a difference of whether you're trying to get the immersive feel to the game to feel as real as you can, and some of them will take away. So you have to pick and choose more so what you're looking for. Going through story mode and you're not on end game yet, go for the immersive. Have fun, relax. Um, some of this you don't even need to focus on until you get to end game. But what I'm going to start out with first and foremost is vibration. I always turn vibration off. Vibration can make a difference in long gameplay as far as your hands, how they feel. It's not like pushing a lawnmower and it's going to get numb and sore, nothing like that. But it can definitely hurt in the aspect of aiming, and also it can make your hands a little more tired quicker from having to grip so hard, or just as soon as it starts shaking and rattling a lot, you grip on a little tighter. So that's definitely the first setting I'm gonna start with. um, Me personally, instead of keep doing the tap 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 inputs, I like to put press, so that way you can press or hold. um, Always helps out. And then we will move on over to here. You don't really have to, nothing audio unless you're streaming and you really want to take away the probability of getting copyrighted. Always put on streamer mode if a game has that, but otherwise nothing really major in there. I like to turn my music all the way down even if I'm not streaming, just so I can hear certain audio cues. So here's where some of the settings really start out that can really change your game, including the immersion side and also help. Uh, any game that offers field of view, I recommend highly always upping your field of view. Uh, any Call of Duty player or Battlefield player will tell you that they up their field of view. I even do this on other games as well, not just Call of Duty. But I recommend taking the field of view all the way up or to 105. I like it at 105. I played around with a lot of it. It just felt right to me. So that's what I stuck with. Don't have to worry about camera shake. Now, motion blur, I would definitely turn this setting off. And the reason is, with motion blur, it what it does is you'll see that when you're moving around a lot, it's going to add a light blur effect that is supposed to help with basically loading the frames per second. The problem with this is you're going to be moving all the time in this game, and especially with your traversal attacks and things like that. What this does, on one hand, is it can somewhat hide enemies as you're coming down off of a building or just traversing during a fight in the middle of it. It's going to add a slight blur, sometimes hiding enemies, and they're not popping up until it stops and they're right there, right in front of your face. It can also do what I like to call like a fake hitbox. So when you're shooting at someone, they have an area that is a hitbox, and basically the the silhouette of the person would technically be your hitbox. There's like a little small difference on the outside. Motion blur makes the enemies look like they have a bigger hitbox. Motion blur can hurt you as far as your accuracy and things like that. With motion blur off, it's not really going to affect anything. All it's going to do is be loading the screen faster. As you come down, you'll see the enemies more clear, and it's going to make your hitbox shots a lot better. I'm not saying that you're going to miss 50% of your shots if you have this on, but every shot counts, especially when you're in the higher difficulties. Bloom, it's the same thing. It really doesn't do anything to help out. So you can go ahead and turn that off as well. The chromatic aberration. Now, this is a good one to have off because it alone or with the motion blur, if you've ever played a game for a long period and you get that drunk punch feeling after hours of playing, the reason is because of settings like this: motion blur, bloom, and film grain, whether all together or sometimes individually, not much on their own, but all together. This can cause that drunk punch feeling after playing for long periods. Now, it's great to play with friends. Don't get me wrong. If you love playing with friends, I would definitely set up games to play with friends. If you want to join a clan, make your own clan, and love playing with other people, all these settings right here, they're fine. I will say this: unless your team communicates and agrees completely on building their squad specs, their character, around a setting that benefits the whole squad, then you need to play alone. I mean, if you got people who are willing to build all their specs around each other and do that, then great. You ain't got to play alone. But the greatest players who are at the top of the leaderboards are usually solo players because they build their entire squad based to help out their main character. And I'm about to show y'all a little bit of that, and also you'll see the gameplay as I play. And the reason this is it's not just about how much damage, how much shield they have, and you can't just expect it as your squad, if you're running solo, isn't doing anything. Now, if you're expecting them to put out the highest DPS, damage per second, then yeah, your squad's not going to wipe everybody. So that's not really so much as a setting, but it's just a tip that unless you can work with your friends or your clan and y'all build all your specs together to benefit each and every character, then really playing solo and building your squad specs is the best way to go, which I will get to that in just a moment. As far as everything else goes, pretty much everything else for the main part is going to be preference. Play around with settings. There could be even a couple of settings that doesn't benefit me that could benefit you. So now we're going to get on to loadout. So what I was speaking on about building your specs. For example, this is my setup, and this is how I have my characters, the computers helping me out. Regardless of what you're running in this, one thing you want to pay attention to, I know some people just look at, oh, this has the highest damage and this has, the best shield. It's got more shield than the others and this and that. There are shields on here that have up to 2800, and the reason that if you run those shields just based on the capacity of the shield or a certain gun because it has the highest damage, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're building your character right. And the reason is because in games like this, you have to pay attention to so much more than just your little top stats. Now, don't get me wrong, stats are a tremendous thing to pay attention to, but what most people don't pay attention to is perks. For example, the perks in building this and the sets that you get, they all tie in together. So, for example, with this shield mod, while there are 4 or more crazed enemies within 20 meters of you, you deal 100% more damage and take 50% less damage. Now, 20 meters is not farther or closer than what you think. Most battles that you have, unless you're flying around doing traversal, are going to be within 20 meters, especially if you're using melee hits or shield harvest. You're going to be putting out 100% more damage and you're going to take 50% less damage. Now, this is just one aspect of it. All you need to do is pay attention to your little 3 perks here. Of course, you got the green, the blue, and the purple, which you have to go to Penguin and you need to go ahead and roll those perks to be able to have 3 set on 1. Then you want to go over to Toyman and be able to go ahead and elite. And with that, you'll be able to go ahead and mod each one of the 3 perks. If you don't have the Toy Maker's Mark, you're not going to be able to mod all 3. You're only going to be able to mod 1 until you get that Toy Maker's Mark. And then, so you go back to the shield over here, you got the perks that you're looking at. It's got the stats, but you also got like 12% damage reduction. So on top of the 50% less damage reduction, you got another 12. I still have not done any modifications to this shield. So when I go, I can re-roll these stats or mod them and they can get a lot better. There's a lot of great stats that you can get. For example, over here on my rifle, 47.5 damage to crazed enemies with this firearm. Now, this set is crazing enemies as I go. I'll show you. Here's Bane's Fury right here. Okay, so if you have on one piece of this set, you deal 4% more damage to an enemy for each 1% of their health that is missing. Now, there's going to be a lot of things going on, grenades thrown, your CPU shooting. So if you happen to shoot somebody who has already been hit by a grenade or something like that, and they're missing half of their life already, and you go, you deal 4% more damage to an enemy for each 1% of their health that is missing. Therefore, that means for if 50% of their health is gone, then you're dealing 4 times 50% right there to their health that's missing. If you have a second piece on of this set, critical hits on enemies below 50% health trigger Bane's Fury. This increased damage by 50% and damage to crazed enemies by 50% for 60 seconds. Each stack of Bane's Fury also adds a 5% chance to cause the enemy to explode on death and crazed enemies within 10 meters. Bane's Fury can stack up to 15 times. This is where you get into paying closer attention because it's not just about the stats of the weapon, it's also about how many percentages stack and what is the percentage. My setup, the reason it does so well is because right down here, I'll go ahead and show you. This is my absolutely, Jinx's Unlucky Coin is my favorite lucky charm. And the reason is, you gain 750% increased damage to a specific affliction for 20 seconds. This effect rotates through the available afflictions. It rotates. So this every 20 seconds, it's going to have the Diablo Blaze, Deep Freeze, Live Wire Bolt, Venom Frenzy. It's going to have one of those active at any given time every 20 seconds. And you also gain 250% increased damage to afflicted enemies. So any enemy that's afflicted by any of them, which you and your whole team are carrying around grenades and a melee and some weapons that can afflict enemies. Meaning at any given time that these enemies are afflicted, which by the way, your coin here is now also putting out an affliction on damage that you're putting out. all different afflictions. So no matter which one of these is active, you're doing another 250% of increased damage. If you mix that in with certain things, now there are a lot better setups than what I have here now. I like to build my own setups. I like to tweak it and I like to work on it. There are a lot of people out there that have videos out where they will tell you the very specific builds that they have that just destroy people. Me personally, I consider it a challenge to see how far I can get with what I can decide. And there for a while, I wasn't going through incursions like melting butter or anything like that until I came across these guns right here. Every single one of my CPUs have these guns on them. And the reason is the perk that they have. This firearms damage is reduced by 50%, but each successive hit on the enemy within this firearm causes it to take 15% more damage from all sources for 10 seconds, up to a maximum of 750% damage. If you've got every single one of your CPUs and you got both their firearms armed with this, no matter what they shoot, they are going to be shooting these guns. And stacking the up to 750% is going to be so easy. So you are going to be doing 750% more damage with these firearms. But you also, even though you're not using these guns, the fully loaded, you are also putting out that max damage with the damage that you're throwing out on your guns. So it's all about stacking these perks that help out tremendously. So if you got all your characters with going with these guns and they're continuously stacking that 750% damage, um, and also you got coins on them. I mean, that's all you're doing is you're stacking nothing but damage output. So pay attention to your stats and your perks. And then also when you get a chance and start going around, go try and put all the perks that you can on the reroll. Make sure you get the absolute best that you can get. Keep in mind when you re-roll these perks and try to put all this stuff on there, it does cost extra each time you do it. So it might start out at re-rolling at like 2,000 or 5,000, but by the fifth or sixth one, you're upwards of 50,000 a roll, and then you're going into like 200,000 a roll. So you can burn through your resources pretty quick. So try to keep an eye on that and try not to pass up perks that will work in the meantime, being greedy, trying to go for the greatest stat you can get at that time. Also, make sure that you pay attention to the modifiers of the incursions that you're going into. For example, in Season 0, leeching bullets was one that was hurting people a lot. And that's because when you're crazing enemies and you had it working with you, when your CPUs were shooting the enemies, they were doing nothing but re-healing them for the most part. For me, pretty much it was trial and error trying to learn the best way to use and craze enemies and to make sure I had all my people with the same type of element doing the same type of damage. With that said, keep in mind to pay attention to your skill points, where you put them on some of these characters. For example, I'll give you with Deadshot. There's a couple of skills in here that go back and forth between assault rifle, pistol, and sniper rifle. Now, if you're somebody who isn't using a, a pistol a lot and you're using mostly assault rifle and sniper rifle, then do not set this stat for your pistol because you're only taking away from your maximum damage and your output and everything else. If you use your assault rifle more than your sniper, put it towards assault rifle. If you sniper more, so on and so forth. Just make sure that the skills that you had set up for playing campaign are still the same weapons that you're using, and that you're not missing out on a chance to put out the best damage you can. Getting into it, when you go into here and you're starting out season 1, if you're just starting out, if you've already started it, you probably already know this stuff. You can skip ahead if you want to, but if you're just starting out, when you come in, this is going to be blocked off, and you're going to have a fear level of 0. Now, when it tells you you can't go to this until you have a fear level of at least 35, which is still considered low, because if you're looking at this, this is a level 40. With that said, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to these right here. You got Imposter Syndrome, you have Laugh Riot, you have High Roller, Acid Flower Power, Shooting Gallery, and Knock 'em Dead. And then right over here, Killing Time. And if I'm correct, this is Hardcore. Okay, Killing Time Hardcore. What you have to do is beat these. And when you go into them, it's not going to be like in Season 0. As soon as you reach Sweating Bullets and pass Sweating Bullets, it's not going to open up the next Mastery 1, 2, and 3. You have to play these sets right here until you reach fear level 35. That can cost a lot of resources, because you have to spend a special currency to be able to get into it. It costs 1,000 per right here for these. So if you imagine, in order to get to level 35, if you beat every single one, that means you need at least 35,000 of the resources with a P in it, the lime green with a P. You have to beat these over and over. I, however, have a quicker way for you to be able to do so, and I'm going to show you that here in a moment, and it's going to be with Imposter Syndrome. Got on last night and was able to get to level 40 within 2.5 hours of just playing. So you can get to level 40 probably quicker if you want to, but the reason it took me even 2.5 hours is because I was playing a couple of these. I definitely played each one a piece starting out to see what they were, see what it was like. But when I found this one, I found this to be the quickest way to level up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that, and I'm going to show you how to quickly get to 35 or even higher. If you want to keep going up and getting your fear levels off of there, then I recommend that you keep doing that over and over. Alright, so here we are over here at Imposter Syndrome. Now, what we're going to be doing is simply queuing it up. Now, the reason I recommend you do this one is because if you have a good way of killing pretty quickly and grouping enemies together, and you're comfortable with drawing a bunch of enemies into you at once rather than doing a lot of flying around sniping and things like that, you can complete this very quickly. This is the one with the least amount of enemies to kill that is easier. Don't get me wrong, there is a brute one that you can do that has less enemies. But if you factor in how long it takes to kill some brutes for people, I just consider it easier to just go ahead and do this one. Alright, this is my favorite spot to go for this. If you draw them all into here, they all tend to come down in here. Now what you can do is sit here and just throw your grenade, traversal around whatever character you're using. Right, see that right there? My traversal, it's just, as long as I get several kills off of it, hits, and it regens fast, so even if I don't get that activated back, it still works out in my favor. Now you have a counter right up here in the right corner. I meant to pay attention and see how many it started out with. I'm not 100% for certain of what it does start out with, but if you look at the rate at which I'm taking them down, this is absolutely one of the fastest ways to do this. And that's barely without even firing the gun. So, alright, as soon as you get that down to 0, all you gotta do, head right over here to the portal. You do get a timing bonus. For those that don't know this, that continuously fight people along the way, you get a timing bonus the quicker you get back. Alright, so it didn't take but a couple minutes to complete that. Even if you timed it at 3 minutes, if you imagine if you do that trying to get to 35 and instead of bouncing around to the others, you can end up getting to 35 in absolutely no time. The only sacrifice you're making by doing this to hurry up and get to 35 so that you can hurry up and play to get to Joker, the only sacrifice that you're sacrificing is being able to get some of the Scarecrow rewards and stuff like that, which after you get Joker, you can do those anytime to help level Joker up. Uh, so for this one right here that you're going to do over and over, you're going to get Scarecrow Infamy set. It's got all the items in it. So it's going to be randomized though, and certain things aren't even going to pop up until you get into the higher incursions. But on some of these other ones over here, you got like neck bomb mods, lucky charms. Over here's the firearms, and then shields and grenades here. And then this has all items too. So you will get a bunch of random items here. If there's some you're missing and you want to level up Joker once you got him, come on over to whatever you're missing, whichever one list it may be, and go ahead and level Joker up and start working on that. Other than that, once you get done and get up to 35, if you so choose to, you will then have Kill Brainiac unlocked. You can go in and kill Brainiac after completing 2 base missions. Go kill Brainiac, and then you can get Joker. Now, I highly recommend that you do get Joker this way. It wasn't until later on in the evening that I realized that Joker's in the item shop to purchase. I don't know how much he cost because after you get Joker in the game, it doesn't show you how much he costs, which you could look that up to find that out at any point in time. I do, however, recommend that if you are going in to get Joker and you struggle a little bit with staying alive in some of the higher incursions and stuff, I do recommend that you at least try to take your fear level to level 40 to be able to do that. And as you can see in the top left corner up there, fear level goes even higher than 40. In fact, I'm at 50, but it goes even higher than 50. I'm not sure exactly what the cap is because if you look in the middle of the screen, right underneath loadout, it has 51 through 60 and possibly even goes higher. And I believe that's the only way I can tell how far it goes so far. When you're doing these raising hells, most people just grind out what it asks you to do.
A good leader puts his team through their paces.
One thing that I like to do myself to make play smarter and easier if you can, when it comes to this list that I have right here, what I would do is I would focus on leaving one of them that I know that I could complete in a mission. For example, kill 10 enemies with shield harvesting. I'd probably choose That one, or kill enemies with 3 suicide strikes. The reason that is because I can control when I do those at any point in time through the game. Now, if you're playing a mission and you're about to have a Raising Hell completed, and which means it's going to spawn them in, and they're all going to come to start attacking you. If you can time it right, let's say you're doing a Toyman's Bus, and you have already collected most of the tags, and you're about to take the final tags back to the bus, which is going to complete mission at that time. What I would do is, if you can activate, like you got one more suicide strike to do on an enemy, I would go ahead and suicide strike that enemy. Completing your Raising Hell, which will spawn the enemies to come after you. When you do that and kill that enemy and it says they are spawning in, wait for them to spawn in.
Great job, team! I'm gonna recommend.
As soon as they spawn, go ahead and jump into that shield to put in the last thing on Toyman's Bus. You'll complete that mission, and when the bomb goes off, it will kill everybody in the Raising Hell.
Stay out there.
I can't tell you get the same amount of XP, not really sure about that, but I do know you get the reward, the perk, and the completion of the Raising Hell. Now keep in mind, the guy who holds on to your crates that you earn by freeing people with the drones, he only holds up to 3. So always make sure that you go back to collect whatever crates you have. Be sure that the crates, when you're collecting them, that you don't collect one that still has like 18 hours left on it, because you can truly get some great resources and equipment out of these packages. That'd be it for today. Like, subscribe, comment. Y'all have a great day.
I've planned its obsolescence.